Hello everyone and welcome to the third episode in my Express JavaScript tutorial series. Now in this video, we will be starting to actually write some Express code and creating a basic web server. Now we are going to do a little quick recap, and then we're going to go over installing the NPM project. Then I will be copying over like some template code, and I'll be explaining it as we go. And we will be creating basically two different portions of our API. One that returns a website like normal, like if you go to google.com, the API for Google returns this web page right here with the logo and the search bar and everything. But also the APIs can also send you JSON, which we went over in the previous episode when we talked about, I think we looked at an open library API that returned JSON about books, which is basically data. So first we're gonna go ahead and do a quick recap. So just to recap, what is JSON? JSON is JavaScript object notation, which is basically objects in JavaScript. So like if I create a const a variable and set it equal to this is the object right here, these brackets, and then you can put stuff inside. In fact, I'm going to open up a new tab and say open library. Yeah, here. Open library. I think I want to look at the API. So if I just open this, I'll show you another example of JSON, which we can go to open library like that. There we go. So by going to this website right here, this portion of their website, this API that we're accessing returns us JSON. It just gives us a string like this. And if I pasted this into JavaScript, it works, or at least I need to paste it in the right way. So I delete that. And then if I paste this into JavaScript, notice it works. It's valid JSON with data inside it. And then otherwise, if I just go to openlibrary.org like this, the API in this portion of the website will just return me the actual website itself and not the data. So the same website can actually have different return values based on like the slashes and what's called the route. This is called the route that you're going to on the website. So either way, this is JSON right here, this bracket. It's basically data in a format that is standard to JavaScript. And then for REST APIs, this right here is not a REST API, this openlibrary.org, because it's a website. But this openlibrary.org / this endpoint here is part of a REST API because you can read from it. You can, you can basically get data from it. You can put data to it depending on what you're doing, but mostly we're getting data from this API. And basically a REST just means you can get data, you can put data. It's a standard format that has like 6 or 7 different things you can do to the API. So yeah, we have this. And then so that was our quick recap. But for now, or in this episode, we will actually be writing some code to do something like this. So I'm going to start by, we need to initialize our NPM project. So I'm just going to look it up to verify that I get all the steps right. But I believe you just come to your terminal here. And now would be actually a good time to teach some basic terminals skills, which I already went over in the previous episode. So this blue portion, or it may not be blue on your machine, but it is your path, which means your folder structure. On your computer, if you're on Windows and you're running WSL, you will have the mount folder and then C, users, Matthew, desktop. Like these are the actual folder that I'm going into to write my code. But if you type ls, then it will list out all of the folders inside this one. So I'm going to go ahead and cd, which means change folders, go into another folder or change directory into backend / ExpressJS, which is this tutorial series here, -3 -Webserver. And depending on your setup, you may not have to do this because you may already be in your code folder. Now, once you're in your code folder, if you have installed Node.js correctly, which we went over in the first episode, then you can type in npm init. And just by doing that, it will print a bunch of stuff. You can ignore most of this. Now it's giving you a prompt, package name, 3-basic web server. I mean, I could keep that, I guess. Version, basically, for the most part, you can just enter through this. It doesn't matter too much. And then you just type yes. And by doing that, it will actually create a file called package.json, which is right here in the same folder that you ran the command in. So it just generates all this information for you. Now, now that we have the package.json, this folder is now a valid npm project or node project. And this is important because when we're going to need to install dependencies like Express later, we will need this file. So I'm going to go ahead and delete the code I had here in the index.js. But the next step, so after initializing our npm project, which we just did, we will want to be able to send an index.html file or a basic website. So to get started with that, I'm going to go to the Express documentation here, expressjs.com/en starter hello world. Now, this is the hello world example. So I'm going to go ahead and copy over the code. And I'm just going to, okay, yeah, I'll just copy it here. And then I will go into the index.js and paste it just like this. So what we're doing in this code is we are saying const express, we're creating a constant variable, and then we are requiring express. Now require, I went over in a previous episode, but all this means is we are taking Express's code because they wrote a ton of code to get their web service to work, and we are just importing it into this variable. And this variable itself is kind of like a JavaScript object because we can say express dot, stuff like that. So yeah, we are importing the express module. And then on the second kind of line of code here, we are creating another variable called app, and we are setting it equal to express the function call. And the reason for this is Express actually exports their code as a function, so that, or I think something like that, so that if you run this same variable, which is a function, then it'll give you your app, which your app is just your web server basically. And then the third line of code is just establishing the port we'll listen on. So we're listening on port 3000. And then we are doing a couple things here. App.get basically means if you remember, we have the get requests, post requests, put requests, delete requests. So basically this is a get request to our server since it's app.get. And then slash just means the base directory of our server. You don't have to do any slashes. So for example, on Google, this slash would just mean google.com, nothing after it. And then the second parameter to the get function is another function. This is an arrow function if you're not familiar. Otherwise, you could write it like this. If you wrote it like this, it would mean pretty much the same thing, but this is a little bit cleaner without using the word function and then using an arrow. And then we're saying res, which means response.send hello world. And then we're saying app.listen port, so just listening on port 3000. And then this is another arrow function that just says that the app has started. So after all of this code has been copied and saved, if I type in node space index.js on the terminal, oh, right, it'll give us an error that says cannot find module express. Now the reason for this is that, like I said, we need the dependencies. Our code doesn't know what express means unless we tell it that it means this express. Now to do that, you can type npm space install space express and then hit enter. And it should install the express dependency. It'll take a few seconds. And then it says added 50 packages. So now that that is completed, now we can type node space index.js and the code will run correctly. And it says example app listening at http://localhost:3030. So if I go ahead and copy this link here and paste it into a new tab like that, guess what it says? It says hello world just in black text. Now that is what's happening. We are listening on port 3000. So localhost just means our computer, :3000 is the port. And then when we get a slash, which is just the base, because if I say /hello, look, it'll say cannot get /hello, because this get only works if there's no slash after the link. And then we are sending hello world to the response, which is back to the user. Now, instead of saying res.send hello world, what we can do is we can also send an index.html file, which is a website, if you recall. So let's just create index.html and hit exclamation point to initialize a boilerplate. And then let's just do an h1 with hello world. You can just copy this right here. Again, I hit exclamation point, hit enter. It'll fill most of this out, and then you add a hello world. And HTML isn't too important in this tutorial series. We just need to use it temporarily. And then ExpressJS send file. Just for a reference here. So I went over this in a previous episode, but this is how you send files. You can use the res.sendFile function. So now that we have this index.html, we can write, instead of res.send, we can delete this and say res.sendFile like that, and then say index.html. And I believe just by writing that code, if we stop our server by doing Control-C, and then, or Command-C if you're on Mac, or no, it would be Control-C if you're on Mac as well, and type node index.js again. As soon as this thing runs again and I reload the page, we do get an error because we need a path. So actually, we're going to need this piece of code here, path.join_name/index.html, instead of just index.html. So all that does is it gets the full path of the file, and then in order to use path, we need to actually require it. So you can see it says var path equals require, and just for good practice, we're going to use const instead of var. Just to keep consistent with good code, because this should not be changed. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Control-C again to stop this on the terminal, clear, and then node space index.js to run it once more. After that runs, I reload the page, and now we get a hello world in bold, because that is the website code here. Now, if I change this hello world exclamation and look closely, as soon as I reload the page, it adds the exclamation, because this web server is just sending the file every time you ask for it. So if we change the file, then this changes as well. So that's how we can kind of update our little website. Now, again, this is just very basic. We are just importing our dependencies, creating the app, and then we are saying app.get/, which is just the base, and sending the file index.html, and then we are listening, which basically means we're starting the server, is what listening means. Now, if I change this to /hello, hello, and I hit, again, Control-C to stop, and then node space index.j, I misspelled that, node space index.js, like that, to run it. If I reload this page, notice it'll now say cannot get / because I changed this to /hello, so I have to now type /hello. And if I do that, we get hello world, just like that. So that is kind of how we change. And in fact, if you didn't already intuit this, we can get another thing. We can add another /, have the same format, like again, rec::res, and then an arrow, and then that. And now suddenly we can say res.send. We can go back to sending hello. And then if I do Control-C on the terminal, node index.js here. So if I do /hello, obviously it will give us hello. But if I just remove the hello and just do /, now it'll say hello like this. This endpoint will get triggered. And if we do /hello, this endpoint will get triggered. So that's kind of like the basically the adding different routes to our website. So again, when we went back to this open library example, we have openlibrary.org, which is this is the / root. This app.get/ is kind of like this openlibrary.org. And what it's doing is it's sending us the file. It's actually sending us the actual file for the website. And then when we do openlibrary.org /works/this.json, then we're actually getting the JSON file. So that's the difference in routes. So yeah, that's a little bit farther than I wanted to go for this basic introduction. But then now we want to cover sending JSON as a response. So simply put, to send JSON, it's really simple. You can, instead of sending a string, what you can do is use a function called json.stringify, which just turns a JSON object into a string, and we need to pass it JSON. So, I mean, let's just create a variable called data, and then set it equal to a JavaScript object, and we say, like, what data do we want to pack? We want to say, let's just say this is about some book. So like title, we'll say Atomic Habits, and then like author, author will be James Clear, for example. So, I mean, we'll just do that, the title and author. So this is our data. Now, in order to send that to the user when they ask for it, we need to say res.send, and then json.stringify, and then we pass in the data into that. And notice what happens if I hit Control-C again, clear, and then node space index.js to run this once more. So last time, if I do /hello, we get that hello world. If I remove the /hello now, we actually get JSON. Look, this looks very similar to this. We get JSON this, we get much shorter JSON here, but it still is JSON. It's title, Atomic Habits, author James Clear, and anyone who's running this, if they're making the request, they can get this data. In fact, the last little bit I'm going to do before I end this video is we are going to go back to using our REST client, which we covered in the previous episode. So if you didn't install that, we did requests.rest, and it basically lets us write REST requests. And if we say send, then it will give us some data. So let me downsize this here and upsize this. So again, we get all of the book data because this endpoint here, this openlibrary.org, is the same thing as this one right here. But if instead we change this to our own website, so let me just say localhost :3000, and look, I'm gonna go ahead and delete the little website we use there, and we paste in our own http://localhost/3000 or :3000. Now, if I hit send request, notice it says http 200. Okay, it's the same thing, except now the data is different. It's our data in here that we can return by using this REST client. And in the future, we're going to learn how to write code in order to get this data and use it. Maybe we want to get it for our website and display the data or something like that. So basically, this has been an introduction into writing web servers with Node. Now, I know I've been going quite fast because there is quite a lot to cover in these introductory episodes. But of course, the magic of YouTube is you can always pause, slow it down, or speed it up, however you choose to listen to the content. But I hope you enjoyed, and I hope this was very informative. So if you want to see more videos like this, I recommend you check out the playlist, which is linked in the description, where I'm uploading every 2 days currently. I'm blanking here. Sorry. If you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for notifications whenever I post new videos. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.